everybody. I'm Mark Weber with Marathon Press and bringing you another marketing moment. I am just thrilled to have my guest today with me, Hayward Gaude. Hayward lives in San Antonio, Texas, and he and his wife Shannon have a wonderful studio. One of the most talented photographers I know, and he is an absolute artist when it comes to what he does. And he's got a long history in photography, and but he started his studio, he and his wife, in 2009, and they have just grown and have become one of those people that you can ask questions for, technically and artistic, and they are just a wealth of information. Hayward, prior to doing this too, was involved with the film business in the 90s, where he worked on a crew, and that has definitely served you well, Hayward, with all the things that you have experienced, and you can apply it to your business. So welcome to the podcast. How you doing?
Thank you, Mark. I appreciate being here. I'm doing okay. Yeah, no, it's not cool here. And we actually had a flood last night, and as you know, I was worried about having power this morning. So, yeah, Texas weather, completely predictable.
Yeah, right. That's the hottest weather I've ever been in. I did a
Oh,
workshop
God.
one time in Houston, and they told me, look, just dress cool and casual because it's hot and humid, and I didn't dress. I thought I'll get through it. I've done weddings in suits and ties. You fight through it. Lesson learned. Oh boy, by
Yeah,
noon
you,
I
you
had
kind of kind of slide out of your clothes at this time of year, and not in a good way.
to exactly. But now, today's topic, we want to cover personalizing your business through YouTube. And I don't know about you, but YouTube is one of my favorite channels to look at and educate, find all sorts of education for anything you can really think of. If you know what to ask, or even if you don't know what to search for, there's so many great things on there. And I like music and, of course, photography. I've learned about my fixing my mower. I've learned about just about everything. But I've also, even as a photographer, there's still a lot. I've been in this for a lot of years, and I know you have too. There's still a lot to learn. And the nice thing is, when you get to our age, you've kind of gotten through and made a lot of the mistakes, and you're trying to help people not
Wish,
have the same mistakes that you've made.
I wish
And
I
I
was done
think,
making mistakes.
looking at your channel, that's one of the things I really enjoy. Is your topics are very educational, but also entertaining. And I love how you brand yourself with your title slides, your head, and kind of the fun, quirky, sometimes it all
That's me.
ties together. Yeah, it's really well done. So I guess,
Thank you.
when we look at YouTube, Hayward, tell me, you've been doing this for a little bit now. What is it? Why did you start a YouTube channel, and why should others think about that?
Well, you kind of gave the biggest reason there just a second ago, is that you're always watching it. Well, my clients are always watching it too. Not necessarily looking for me. They're looking for and you said the two things: information and entertainment. And that's where everybody is. I don't remember the number I heard. I follow a lot of channels who uh, help creators on YouTube. I think I've heard that this YouTube is a $4 billion market, and that means 4 billion in creators' pockets.
Wow.
So you don't go into it with the idea of just making money, because obviously, like in professional photography, if you're just in it for the money, you probably won't be any good at it because there's no passion. So you have to have an angle and a passion. But the reason to go into it is because it's where everybody is. And whether they wound up there because of photography, which is highly unlikely, however, the market is just enormous in YouTube, and it's where everything's going, like it or not. I mean, I'm a print photographer, but um, the market is on YouTube time wise. People spend time on YouTube, leisure time, search time, but they're there. The market's there.
Absolutely. And I I know with that many people on there, there's a reason why you're seeing, so many people starting up channels, and the competition is incredible. I mean, I subscribe to a number of people. You're one of them. I looked through all my subscriptions that I have, and it was like, the last time I looked, I think I had over 100 that I've subscribed to. But they're all really good, and I enjoy all of them for different reasons at different times. So when you look at that, the competition's tough. How do you stand out in the crowd? What are you doing to promote it? How do you stand out?
Well, here's the funny thing. A lot of and we used to talk about this when we talked about my business with you. Um, there's only one me. Happy for the world, thank God. But there's only one me, and I can't tell you. I look at if you look at my channel and a lot of the videos I've done, a lot of other people have done very similar videos, but they're not quite the same. There's a little twist, and that twist is my personality. And to do YouTube, you sort of have to objectify yourself. You have to just take you off of you and look at yourself as a product. Um, as a studio photographer, that's different. Normally, the client is the product, but you have to be both. It's kind of weird, but I think the fact that I don't really have to try and be very different. I just have to make sure I'm being myself and not copying anyone. I think that's really important. Don't ever try and copy someone. Again, good advice for any professional photographer, right? You have your inspirations and artists steal, but you've got to filter it through you. And I think that it's really important to, if you want to tackle something like this, to make sure that you allow yourself to be your own filter.
That's a
N-
good point.
I mean, you asked about promotion. To me, one of the best things about YouTube is that there is no promotion. Quality content gets seen. It's one of the biggest reasons that it finally got me into YouTube, is that I don't have to rack my brains thinking, well, how am I going to get people to see this? YouTube wants people to see good content, and they will put it in front of them. Now, if you're not making good content, you're going to struggle. But if you make content that people are interested in, your audience will just start increasing.
How do you find, Hayward, when you look through YouTube and got inspired, what is it that people tend to, when you say good content and quality content, is it just kind of like a search, watch? You got 10 seconds for people to kind of go, yeah, I'm into this or I'm not. How is there any statistics on that?
Well, if you look at your statistics on your videos, what you'll see what they call the hockey stick. In the first 30 seconds, you'll see a big drop because you don't have a lot of time to get people's attention. So you do have to kind of beat them over the head first. It's like, oh, cool, and just get them long enough to get them to the point where they're going, oh, okay, I'm interested in that. Now, they may just not be interested in what you're talking about, but the first 30 seconds is where you have to establish that. And you have to you have to be very direct with what your video is about. At the same time, you have to be very entertaining. So that's when your showmanship is going to come in those first few seconds of a video. You've got to be, this is what I'm doing, or they're going to get aggravated and just leave because you're not doing what they expected. And you've got to just be at your most engaging at that point. If you're going to pull any funny editing or quick transitions or something, that's usually the time you're going to do it to get their attention.
So, like when you talk about getting their attention, do you kind of start out with, hey, here's what I'm going to teach you today, and show some highlights that you've already recorded, and then jump into the start of it? Or how do you look at that?
What I'm learning over time, and I have done, I've done videos in a lot of different ways, and the statistics tell the story really well. Some of them have surprised me in which ones work very well. You can't ever, you can't ever do better than a good idea. If you've got a good idea for a video and a topic is just going to be appealing to a lot of people, most of your work is done. You've just got to be good at presenting it and not bumble it, basically. Um, what I find is that it's what I try and do in the first few seconds of videos is get people back on their heels, because you got to picture what's going on. 90% of them are just doing this, right? So if you're going to get them to stop that, you've got to do something to go, whoa, wait, what did he say? And usually it's something controversial. It's a question. It's if I'm going to talk about X, what I'll say is, you never want to do Y, right? And wait a minute, why not? Because you want to do X, and then you go into your video. So there's lots of things to do that. They're not tricks. They're what film producers and television producers have been doing for 60 years, 70 years, right? They've got the same problem you do as a YouTuber. They're just professionals, and they've got a lot of people helping them do it.
So they're creating a really strong headline, and that's kind of what YouTubers need to do in the beginning as well.
Yes, you absolutely do. It's got to be solid. It's got to be something that's interesting. So whatever niche, like in photography, there's only about 2 billion videos on photography. What you'll find is that you will tend to gravitate to people who are like you, as you like channels, right? So when you start watching the videos, you'll start saying, oh, I could do that better. Or, hey, he missed this point. Or there's your opportunities, especially if you look at those videos and they have many thousands of views. That's a good, you look at what's out there, look at what's popular and say, oh, well, sure, I can talk about that, or I could add to that,
I see that too with your YouTube videos, the ones that cover camera, lenses, cameras, and lighting, flash strobes, that kind of, that seems to be like the most popular of the lessons that you've given. Would you agree?
It is definitely the most popular. And the reason you kind of have to lead with that, I heard a guy on a channel one time say, you get them in for what they're looking for and then have them lead with what they need. Most of the time I will start a video with talking about a camera or something, but I will try and end the video with a principle that shows you what's really important about that camera and how it helps you. The camera itself does nothing for you if you don't understand the principles you need, right? I'm assuming we're talking to mostly professional, semi-professional photographers right now. So you understand that, yeah, you need a good piece of gear, but unless you really know how to do it and you really know what's important about it, it's not going to help you a whole lot.
Well, that's speaking of helping you, what is your goal for your channel, Hayward?
Well, for me, again, like I said, you usually go into something like this, like you would go into your photography business with multiple goals. Well, first, of course, you have to make a living, but because of what we've been talking about, how many other people there are out there doing the same thing, you've got to find a passion that by its very nature sets you apart. And we all have this. You just have to look into yourself and say, what is it about this? And one of the things that I have never spent a lot of time doing, because I got into PPA late in life, I don't really have a whole lot of interest in going through the educator degrees like Craftsman and stuff like that. I think they're great and they're wonderful, but I'm at a stage of life where this gray hair is my best credential. I'll be honest with you. Yep. However, having said that, I love teaching. And so YouTube allows you to teach on your terms. It allows you to teach what you want to talk about, what you think will be good. It'll either fly or it won't on YouTube. That's up to your market, right? But you don't have to create this entire program and go travel the world to get an audience and really work so hard to get butts in seats, as they say. You can enjoy it a little bit more, and you can kind of work it on your own schedule. And if you get good enough and persistent at it, you can make some money.
Absolutely. And when you look at, getting set up for doing a recording, let's talk about the equipment needed. A microphone, obviously, device to record it on, and then also lighting. You got to be able to see whatever you're doing. So what do you recommend to people when they're first starting out?
As professional photographers, everything you just said is the first thing we think about. As a YouTuber, this is really what you need. Yep. If you're just getting started, I would say man, cut your teeth on using a phone. I mean, if you've got like a late model iPhone, let me tell you, there's a good 30% of my videos are done shot on 4K video on my iPhone when I'm shooting what's called a B-roll. When I'm talking into the camera, I'll use my EOS, just because it's easy and I can see the little screen. But man, these phones today, don't you get a microphone, stick a good microphone on there, put it on a tri. It's really not hard. You can get into it very inexpensively. As you know, as a photographer, the better production value, you get a better camera, you get lights. Absolutely. I mean, but as a photographer, you also already kind of know how to light. You're just transferring your skills to YouTube, and you kind of have an advantage. Equipment wise, YouTube is a very light footprint, because if you're engaging, if whatever it is, you've got a topic that people really want, if you've got a personality that just people love, you equipment is not going to be a problem. It's very minor.
Very interesting. When you filmed or recorded your outdoor stuff, did you use your camera or did you use your phone?
Let's see. I used my EOS camera outside because I think the video you're talking about is where I was balancing flash.
Yeah.
I used my grandchildren. I had my grandkids come out and run the camera for me. Again, you're not penalized for having low production values on YouTube, as long as what you're doing connects with who's watching. It's a very democratic medium, and you don't have to work all that hard I mean, like I say, if you know how to expose an image, you can do it on this, you can do it on a camera, you can do it on whatever. But yeah, to answer your question, that was my EOS, because I had to use the trigger and trigger the flash and all that.
A good friend of mine has always told me the best camera to use is the one you have with you. And
Yep,
that's the
absolutely.
nice thing about, your phone. It's always with you. And I
Yes.
find, and boy, the quality I'm getting from my phone anymore. And it just blows my mind. I've entered some in print competition and had a couple of loan images from them if you know how to use it and so on. But I think your point about if you have good content, it
Yes.
isn't critical that you have incredible filmography. It's just important that they be able to see what you're doing and understand what you're discussing. So,
If you'd have
but
told me that I was going to be doing this 8 months ago, I'd have said you are crazy.
really,
But my daughter is, she's of the age that is very much into YouTube, and she does some work for some channels helping moderate live content. And she kind of got me into appreciating what YouTube is. She wasn't trying to sell me on it. She just got me to appreciate what it is more widely than I was familiar with. Of course, I watched it and I watched instructional videos, but one day it just clicked. And it was like, you know, this is where things are going. There's a reason that every camera they sell today has video, guys. It's not just an aggravating add-on. There's a reason there's video in every camera that they're selling today.
good point. And with that, and I know there's apps you can use on your phone to edit and so on, but me being a photographer, I like to have something that I can actually take into my computer, go in and edit. How do you handle your editing?
I did use, what was that app we talked about? Movavi. I
Yeah,
started with Movavi. It's a
yeah,
very simple video editor.
yeah.
If you've never edited video before, it's pretty good. I mean,
Hmm.
that was your first time editing video.
Yeah, yeah. I
It's
really found it very what am I trying to say? User friendly. Hmm.
Yes. And what it does is it abstracts a lot of the complexities. It makes it kind of easy. It's designed for somebody who doesn't necessarily want to be a video editor, and there is a free version of it. So definitely don't spend money unless you feel that you can't do something with the feature set.
Hmm.
I've moved on to Premiere Pro because, again, I was in the film business. And once I got it started to do this, I was like, there's a lot of things I just wanted to do. And I understood what I was after, but you don't have to do that. And on your phone, there's an app called Filmic Pro, which allows you to completely control all the exposure settings when you're shooting video. frame rate, shutter angle. You can freeze the frame rate, which you really want to do for video. It uses the native functions of the phone, of course, but it gives you a much better interface as a photographer, a professional photographer would like to say, I really want to control this. And I don't know, I think it was $10. I mean, I don't really remember, but it's well worth it if you're going to shoot video on your phone.
And just clarify, Hayward, that was Filmic Pro?
Filmic,
Filmic.
Filmic Pro. Yeah.
Okay.
See, I can bring it up.
All right. I will put that on my notes and include that in the blog part.
There you go.
Tell
Filmic
me
Pro.
too, with the with software and editing handled, then let's talk about some do's and don'ts about the length, the topic, recording quality. What do you recommend there?
When you look at a topic on YouTube, you one of the first things I do, I try and look at it and I go, okay, how much is this in terms of how much investment is somebody going to want to do with this? So, and it kind of breaks down in terms of, is this entertainment or is it tutorial, right? So a tutorial obviously is going to tend to be a little bit longer. I have been told, and I have learned through my own experience, that I don't try and control the length as much as I make sure I'm not padding the video. It's going to be as long as it's going to be. As you can tell, I have no trouble talking. So often I have to kind of cut things down a little bit. In the beginning, I was more heavily scripted. But as I get more comfortable, I script less and less. Now, you got to be careful. That puts time on the edit side. You got to be really careful that you don't run on too much. But people's attention span is very short for entertainment unless you're Mr. Beast and can just rivet people to that camera. Most of us can't do that. I can't do that. You know, I can be goofy and crazy and I can keep people's attention for a little while, but I'm not an entertainer, you know. However, when I'm talking about photography, I will get wound up, and my passion, I think, does show through, and I think that's what helps me on the channel. So when I'm teaching something, I kind of just make sure I'm covering all the points that are important, and then edit it for tightness on the backside, and wherever it comes out, it comes out. I don't think I've done a video over 14 minutes yet. Most of them run in the 5 to 8 minute range.
Interesting. And that makes sense because that's about people's attention span. There's some videos like that I watch on drip photography, drip collision photography. You know, some of that lasts a little bit longer, but not much. I mean, they really get to the heart, and that's what I like about it. It's like I don't have to invest a half an hour to watch something. It's, you know, instructive, informative. So anyway, yeah, very
in fact, if something is that long, I may not watch it. Because when I'm looking through YouTube, I'll go, ooh, 45 minutes? I don't really have 45 minutes, you know, unless it's something like, well, this is going to be the beginning and the end of how to set up a photography studio and make $100,000 in your first year. Oh, okay. Well, maybe I'll watch that.
Yeah. And I might speed through some of the parts, but yeah, no, I hear you. Tell me too, how do you handle comments? You know, there's trolls out there, and that's got to be a challenge.
Okay, so my channel's very new. I just started in early December of 21. So I don't know, what is that, 9 months, maybe something like that, 8 months. So I'm still kind of on the honeymoon. I only have about 2,200 followers right now. So most of the time, I would say, and I've heard this from other creators too, most of the time the comments are kind of a joy. When you get really big, if you start getting, you know, hundreds of thousands of subscribers, yeah, the trolls come out. And don't get into this if you have a thin skin. And my advice would be, don't get into it with them. You have the option with YouTube to have comments moderated automatically, where it'll check for words and stuff like that. It won't just automatically show the comment. I would definitely advise turning that on. And the other thing is, you can always just delete a comment. Rather than getting into a fight with somebody in your channel, you can only look bad getting into a fight with somebody in your channel. Just delete the comment if it's offensive. If it's my policy is, if they just disagree with me, that's fine. Disagree with me. I'm totally okay with that. You guys in the comments, go hash it out. I'm okay with that. I've had people disagree with me pretty strongly. Okay,
Just
that's
live
fine.
with it. You're okay. Yeah.
Absolutely. I
Hmm.
mean, if you don't take it with that approach, I think you're in for a lot of heartache.
It's kind of like entering print competition.
It's a lot like entering print competition. You don't enter print competition if you got a thin skin.
No,
As you know, don't do
no,
that.
that is not going to make your day sometimes.
Yeah,
Sometimes. But
definitely, definitely.
so I like the moderation option of turning that on, and that's a good
Yeah.
idea. And then you obviously, because I see too, you're answering questions or comments. I saw someone that was an 80-year-old man. He said, "I'm an 80-year-old man. It's more than my brain can handle." And you were good about going back on and responding. How frequently do you check, and do you get notifications on that, or how do you handle that?
Well, you can. I mean, I get. I'm getting email notifications. I wouldn't want to get text notifications. I'm not sure you can. I check it 2 or 3 times a day, depending on how busy I am.
Hmm.
Um, I enjoy the conversation. That's one of the reasons I'm doing the channel.
Yeah.
I enjoy. I mean, mostly it's photographers of some level
Hmm.
doing the comments. Man, I love talking with photographers. You know,
Yeah.
we don't. Our local guild here. I don't often get to go to local guild meetings and hang out with the other photographers, just for one reason or the other.
Hmm.
It just doesn't happen as much. But man, if you want to talk to other photographers, go say some controversial things on YouTube. You will talk to a lot of photographers really fast.
Well, I do enjoy, and as a subscriber to somebody, when they, if I make a comment, hey, I love your channel, I really love that song, love that lesson, whatever. And when they respond back, even if it's just a, hey, great, glad you enjoyed it type of, it makes my day too, because it's like, wow, they actually do read what you share, because as you know, it takes a bit to add something, to take the time to write it. So when they're reading it and taking the time back to respond, I think that keeps people even more loyal to your
Well,
channel.
the other thing is when you look at a lot of the larger channels, you don't get comments answered. And so you, let's put it this way: you subscribe to a YouTube channel because you feel a connection with the person running the channel, right? So when you feel a connection with someone, you want to have a conversation with them, right? That otherwise, why would you comment? Now, as you mentioned, trolls, they comment to get attention or to cut people down or whatever. Their agenda is a whole different thing. But if your agenda is sincere, it's because there's a human connection. So you start a conversation. But with smaller channels, if you're a creator that doesn't enjoy the conversation, again, you're probably going to struggle doing YouTube. Um, like I said earlier, I'm just later in my career where I didn't want to take the craftsman route and go teaching around. It doesn't mean I don't like teaching. It doesn't mean I don't like to talk photography. It just means that I need it more on my terms at this point. And I think a lot of people, well, the young people know it. The young people were born into it. They're used to the instant conversation, and they're used to a comment on a YouTube video being the equivalent of a piece of postal mail 40 years ago. Hey, I sent a mail to, I expect an answer. You know,
Yeah.
that's the world today, and I think it's great. Maybe I'm in my honeymoon with the channel. I don't know, but 80 to 90% of the comments are very positive, even if they disagree with me. And I'm totally fine with it because I usually learn something from the comments they bring up. I had a guy bring up something today about I did a video on exposed to the right, and I'm against it for the most part because I think it screws up a lot of things in your and so I presented it, and I also presented in the video that there's a reason it came up back in the day in digital video why it was done. And he brought up something I didn't think about. He said, you can smash your values to the right, even if you still have a range. You've changed your tonal relationships. And I just went, zone system. You can't just smash everything to one side of exposure and expect that the relationships are going to remain the same. And I'm like, wow, dude, thank you. I didn't think of that. And that's why one of the biggest things when I get comments like that, it's really rewarding.
Nobody learns like the teacher. And that's one of the things, even when you teach live,
Yeah.
that's one of the things I enjoyed.
Yeah.
Especially when Ann Monteith and I were doing our workshops together. There were people in the class who respectfully would challenge something or question something,
Yeah.
and those were great because it was like, you know what? Either we hadn't thought of that, or
Right.
that goes against every rule. But if it's working for you,
Yeah.
great. So there's more than one way to skin a cat, and as long as people do things or say things respectfully, then I really embrace
Exactly.
that.
That's
Yeah,
all it's about. And, it's like, are you having a conversation or are you just trying to create some conflict? Because if you're just trying to create some conflict, delete.
yeah.
You know, no,
Good
doesn't
point.
the other viewers won't get anything out of that. You're
Yeah,
not going to hurt me. I can turn it off.
yeah. And
But I
I don't
don't
know.
want the other people to hear all this ridiculousness,
You know, I'm a big NASA space nut, and so there's things that I read about people. They have a controversial perspective about whether we landed on the moon or the Earth is flat or whatever, and I don't even read those. It's like the minute I start to see that, it's like I just go to the positive comments. So
Yeah, exactly. Now YouTube is full of this.
no, yeah,
Well, controversy gives ratings, right?
yeah,
It's look at your major media, all our news channels. They're all about the headlines too. It's because unfortunately, good news doesn't excite people as much as controversy.
yeah.
It's a quirk of human nature, or it's the world we live in. But
People like drama.
yeah, yeah.
Um, Before we run out of time here, too, let's. Can you touch on how do you pre-plan what you're going to do? Well, you mentioned early on you used to script your things, and then as you became more comfortable with, doing it, you didn't have to script it as much. I love the idea of just having something pre-planned at least to start with to help keep you more organized and reduce your editing time. But is there anything you recommend in particular when pre-planning something?
Well, I'm in that mode right now. Actually, I took a couple of days off to go on this out of town job that we were talking about before, and so what I usually do with YouTube is I keep one video in my pocket that's like, okay, if you can't make, because you really have to do it weekly, if you're in the channel growing phase, because you just become less and less relevant the more if you don't have new content. So that's a little bit of a challenge. If you think you can't do that, you might struggle to grow your channel. You won't struggle to get views. You might struggle to grow your channel if you can't do content regularly. So the trick with it is just like if you have a photography business, you have the phases of earning your money. You have the client acquisition, the planning, the execution, and then the sale. And it works the same way with a YouTube channel. So in the beginning, you've got to get that great idea, which equates to getting the client. I've got a great client. Okay, well, how can we make music together? Right. And that's what so in the equivalent in YouTube is an idea that seems to be popular or appeals to you strongly. So I have to watch, or at least I have to look through YouTube to see what's the zeitgeist, what's going on, what's popular. Unfortunately, it usually relates to new equipment, and that's okay. That's okay. I mean, hey, if you grow a channel big enough, and I've had this happen, I've had people already send me a couple of things to review. You will get gear. It will come to you. So that's an upside. But the ideas really are, you have to look into yourself and switch sides. What would you be interested in? Well, if you say, wow, what do I want to, as you're doing this, right? What do I want today? And so I keep a list. I just keep a tickler list of ideas where, and you have to have that list close at hand when you have an idea. Otherwise, that idea is gone. And so you have to be able to at least write a one sentence. Oh, I want to do a video on this. Like this afternoon, I'm going to record a video on printing your work. So, and so for me, if I have that one liner in my tickler list, as soon as I go, well, then it all starts coming out of my head, and then I can flesh it out. You gotta know your subject well enough to be able to do that, right? If you would struggle, if I say printing your work, what's important about it? If you don't have 8 or 10 bullet points in your head, you're really not that good on that topic. You might want to do something else. So you have to find what you're good at and what you're passionate about. And if you've been in this game, photography, for any length of time, it's huge. It's enormous. There's a number of facets to it that you will never reach the end of it if you're honest with yourself. And look at other photographers. They're a great inspiration. So get the idea and see if it resonates with you. If it does, you'll know instantly because you'll start seeing ideas in your head. And that's kind of how I approach it. And I haven't run out yet. I mean, there might be a time when I'm like, you know what? I don't have any ideas right now. I need to go do something else. Haven't happened yet.
Write it down. So, have your inspiration ready to go. Never know where that's going to come from.
You don't.
Well, Hayward, since we're out of time, I do want to thank you again for being here. I always enjoy talking with you, and you're so knowledgeable, and that's one of the things that keeps me entertained with you. So I know you have good support there with Shannon.
Oh,
she'll keep you entertained as well. So
she keeps me on the ground.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thanks for joining us today.
Thank you, Mark.
Let's do this again another time.
Absolutely. I had a lot of fun. Good luck with it.
Thank you. If somebody wants to get a hold of you, how do they reach you?
You can go to my website, haywardgaudephotography.com, and you can send an email through the website. The YouTube channel is Coffee and Photography Talk, of course, because can't do photography without coffee. So, and that's what the channel is. It's just about chatting about photography, really.
I love your logo on that too. That's cool.
Thank you.
Yeah. All right. Well, thanks everybody. You can reach me.
Thanks, Mark.
Mark Weber at marathonpress.net or 800-228-0629, extension 283. Thanks for tuning in, everybody. We'll see you next time.